Hi guys, it's Regs War here. We're about to do our next trip. This time we're heading off from Chivenor, where we landed on the last episode, and we're heading along the North Devon coast. So let's get up in the air. So first of all, we're just going to head down the river a little bit towards Barnstaple, which is the largest town in North Devon, or the main town in North Devon. Actually, it claims to be the oldest borough in the United Kingdom, and it used to be referred to as Barham, which was a contraction of the Latin form of the name, and you see the term Barham come up in Shakespearean plays, a lot of other classical works, and it's also stamped on local pottery. So we're just coming over Barnstaple now. So there's some almshouses called Penrose Almshouses in Barnstaple, and you can actually see bullet holes which date back to the English Civil War. There's also a clock tower called the Albert, which is on the square in the centre, and it's known as the four-faced liar because the four different clock faces never read the same time, which sounds extremely helpful. And in 1844, some straight tusked elephant fossils were found in Barnstaple, which proved that elephants once roamed Europe, and they became extinct in the UK literally 100,000 years ago. Some of the bits are on show in Barnstaple, but I believe a big chunk of it went to the Natural History Museum in London. So we're just going to head up towards the north coast. I'm hoping to go to Ilfracombe. So we'll just head up there now. Just got to make sure we don't hit these wind turbines. When we get to the north coast, we're only actually 35 miles away from the Welsh city of Swansea, because the north coast of Devon is actually on the Bristol Channel. We will get to Swansea, but not for a few episodes. This one's going to be a long one. There's not actually that many airfields in North Devon. So the airfield that we're going to land in is actually in Somerset, near Wellington. Just trying to work out which bit I need to head for Ilfracombe. Being so close to Swansea, only 35 miles, it's actually been a popular spot for sort of Bristol Channel crossing challenges for things like kite surfing. Actually, the first person to swim the entire distance from Ilfracombe to Swansea was a TV presenter, Gethin Jones, and he did that in 2009, and it took him about 22 hours. This is Ilfracombe down here. I don't know. I know that the UK has had like an upgrade based on some other areas on Microsoft Flight Simulator. I don't know in what detail they've gone to on like North Devon towns. Because Ilfracombe is the home to quite a famous Damien Hirst statue, sculpture called Verity, and it's on the Ilfracombe Pier. There's quite a lot of controversy, but it does stand on the harbour almost like the Colossus of Rhodes. I'm going to try and go far down to see if it's been recreated. It's actually loaned in 2012 from Damien Hirst. I don't think it's there. I don't think it's been recreated. And it actually shows a pregnant woman holding aloft a sword, and then on one half it shows like the internal anatomy, and then on the other half it's just sort of like the skin. It's also they have St Nicholas Chapel, which is on Lantern Hill, and it has the UK's oldest working lighthouse. I think we've just passed Combe Martin, which we'll talk about in a moment. So it's the UK's oldest working lighthouse. It was built in 1361 and has been there for over 650 years. Ilfracombe was also home of two passengers of the Titanic, Alice and her father Escott. They left from Southampton, and Alice was a survivor, but unfortunately her father was not. Ilfracombe was also home to the author Henry Williamson, who wrote the novel Tarka the Otter. There is actually a Tarka trail which goes all the way around Bideford, Barnstaple, Ilfracombe, called the Tarka Trail, and he just lived in a small cottage. 500. There's also a theatre in Ilfracombe called the Landmark Theatre, and it's got two, like a double conical design, and locals call it Madonna's bra because of the shape of it. Ilfracombe also had a great fire, which started in 1896 in an ironmonger's and furniture shop, and the local volunteer fire brigade had it under control by the morning, but they only had a manual Merryweather engine, a hose reel cart, and one ladder on wheels. In total, about 35 houses and premises were destroyed, and they all got medals and £2 each for a dinner in their honour. So Combe Martin, which we've passed, has actually got a Guinness World Record for the world's longest street party. Combe Martin is more or less just one long single street which winds its way through the village, which makes it the perfect place for festivals or parties. Exmoor actually, and North Devon actually, has the highest coastline on the British mainland. It gets to 1,350 feet. There's also several disused silver mines. Evidence of the tunnels can be seen, and like whale houses. In fact, items of the crown jewels are made from silver from near Combe Martin. And a large part of the war expenses of Edward III and Henry V were paid for by silver mined here. In Combe Martin there is a pub called the Pack of Cards. It was built around 1700 by a chap called George Lee. He was reputed to have been funded by his gambling, and it had originally 52 windows, 13 rooms and 4 floors, matching all the numbers from a pack of cards. In fact, in Combe Martin, one time there were 9 pubs: the Castle, the Dolphin, the Forecastle, the George and Dragon, the Lion Inn, the London Inn, the Marine, the Pack of Cards, and the Top George. And they had an annual carnival celebration, and they did a wheelbarrow race, which was the entire length of the village. And the competitors had to stop at each pub and consume a pint of beer before continuing. In 2008, it was replaced by a fun run and alcohol-free wheelbarrow parade, which does not sound as fun, which is probably why in 2009 it was reinstated. They also do a parade with floats, and there's one float called the Uncle Tom Cobley, and it's actually been in the parade since 1911. As ever, I have turned all the weather off, all the clouds off, just so that we can see everything that we can see. As I said, a standard British day, it would be drizzle and grey and cloud, and we wouldn't be able to see much. Some other towns and villages that we're going to pass, but I'm not 100% sure the exact location of them. One is Linton, and Linton has the Linton and Lynmouth Cliff Railway, which has a water-powered funicular railway joining the two towns. It's actually the world's highest and steepest water-powered cliff railway in operation today. The landscape is definitely a lot hillier than we've been used to on our previous episodes.
500.
Another spot is Porlock. And Porlock in 2010 had the most elderly population in Britain, with over 40% being of pensionable age. It's also home to Colburn Church, which is said to be the smallest church in England. The main structure is 12th century, and services are still held there even though there is no road access. It's about Colburn is about a 2-mile walk from Porlock Weir and about 3 to 4 miles away from Porlock itself. Legend has it that the area beyond Colburn towards Lynmouth is where Jesus may have alighted on a trip with Joseph of Arimathea, and is said to have inspired a passage from William Blake's famous poem Milton. At low tide, there's actually the remains of a submerged forest that can be seen at Porlock. The area was several miles inland until the sea level in the Bristol Channel rose, but that was 7,000 to 8,000 years ago. So the next place that we're looking for is Minehead, which I think is to the side of that hill in the distance or before. We're now, I believe, in Somerset rather than Devon. Minehead is definitely west in Somerset. When we'll decrease altitude when we get over these hillier areas. I think you can actually see Wales on the horizon, just in places. Definitely see landmass at the other side of the Bristol Channel. think I can just see Minehead coming into view ahead in the sort of the V where the two hills are. So we'll be heading to Minehead, and then we'll follow the coast to Watchet, and then we have to head inland towards Wellington to locate the airstrip that we'll be landing at. So, Minehead is the birthplace of Sir Arthur C. Clarke, the author of 2001: A Space Odyssey. It is also home to England's longest heritage railway, the West Somerset Railway, which is steam heritage. And then in the 1990s, severe storms washed away most of that beach, and 320,000 tons of sand was shipped in to restore the beach, and they created new sea defences to protect it. And Minehead is most famous for its Butlins camp. Dragon's Den, Deborah Meaden used to work there. Stephen Mulhern from the TV worked there, was a redcoat. Also Des O'Connor and Jimmy Tarbuck, and in fact Catherine Zeta-Jones won a talent contest there. It's also Minehead is the starting point of the Southwest Coast Path, which is the longest countryside walking trail in the United Kingdom. And then I got some brilliant facts about Butlins. Status Quo played some of the early gigs there and actually returned in 1990 to perform a 25th anniversary concert. And then during season, 300 tons of potatoes, which is 20 times the weight of Blackpool Tower, are consumed. 225 tons of chips, which is the end-to-end the distance between Minehead and Morocco. 10,000 litres of ice cream are eaten, which would give every resident of Minehead an ice cream every day for a month, and 450,000 burgers, which stacked up would be 60 times the height of Statue of Liberty. And on Christmas Day, 180 gallons of brandy sauce. I mean, it doesn't sound like they have the best diet at Butlins in Minehead, but they're quite fascinating facts. So the next part we're going to get to is Watchet. Samuel Coleridge's poem The Rime of the Ancient Mariner was written here in 1797, and he lived at Coleridge Cottage. I don't think it was called that at the time, in Netherstowey. And while living there he wrote The Lime Tree Bower, My Prison, Frost at Midnight, and The Rime of the Ancient Mariner. And it's claimed that the sight of the harbour from St Decumund Church was the primary inspiration for him to start the poem, having walked over the Quantock Hills with William and Dorothy Wordsworth. and there's a commemorative statue at the harbour. This is Watch It. There's a local tradition called Lantern Night where children make candles out of hollowed out root vegetables like swedes. It has been there since the Saxon period, and it actually had its own mint. Coins made in Watch It have actually been found in Scandinavia, so they must have been used for Vikings. It was also, and this is brilliant, it was the scene of a bizarre battle during the Civil War. So there's a royalist ship was sent to get the town for King Charles, and the ship was offshore and the tide went out and it was just shallow water. So the parliamentary troops, mounted troops, galloped through the shallow water firing their carbines, and even though by the time they got to the ship the horses were sort of up to their breast level, the carbines caused such a panic that the sailors just surrendered, and it might be the only time that a ship at sea has been captured by men on horseback. Christianity was brought to the Watch It area in the 7th century by Decuman, who was a Welsh missionary from Pembrokeshire. He's said to have floated across the channel on his cloak with a cow. The local pagan residents weren't chuffed about him being there, so they chopped his head off, and a spring came forth from the place where his head landed. But don't worry, he picked his head up again, gave it a wash in the waters and popped it back on his shoulders. Although an alternative history says that the well and where the spring was already a holy place long before his arrival. And the well is still there to this day. So we're heading towards Wellington now. We won't quite get there as we will be landing beforehand. Wellington is the home of Thomas Fox, who started the Fox Fowler and Company Bank, which was rapidly expanded, was very successful, and actually merged with Lloyds Bank in 1926. And the building in Wellington is still a Lloyds Bank. And it was actually the last private bank in England that was allowed to issue its own notes, and they were legal tender until 1964. I believe there are still 9 notes left in circulation, and there's one on display in the British Museum. Wellington itself also dates back to Saxon period and was then given to the Bishop of Wells. Obviously, the well-known would be the Wellesley family, and who were Viscounts, Earls, and then Dukes of Wellington. Most famous, of course, Arthur Wellesley, Duke of Wellington, Victor of Waterloo. There's although he took his title from the town, he only visited it once. But he's commemorated by the Wellington Monument, which is overlooking the town, and it's an obelisk started in the 1820s, and it is 175 feet high and is actually the tallest 3-sided obelisk in the world. I believe it's now, although it was originally on land owned by the Duke, it's now owned by the National Trust. So now we've just got to find our airstrip. I really should learn to fly these once before I then record them, so I know 100% where I'm going. This one is just a grass strip, which means it's not going to stand out that well. Confession, I couldn't find it. I flew around for 10 minutes looking for the airfield. And then I found it. So, thank you for flying Regsar War Airlines. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please like and subscribe. And I'll see you again next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.